Hey YouTube, it's another perfect day in God's country and I ain't lying. Man, I got to hang out with the sun today. The sunshine. The sunshine. Not my son. Uh, I I swear I have gotten like so little sun this winter. The last 2, 3 months, whatever. So nice to see the sunshine today. So I'm feeling pretty good. It's another perfect day in God's country, and I swear I ain't lying. And thank you to each and every one of you that decides to take a moment out of your day to hang out with me, Lucky Haskins, for yet another moment of truth. I want to give a huge shout out to my man, Chicago Cubby Bear, shouting out the old guard. It's always cool to hear that term again. Uh, I guarantee most of the people that stumble upon my videos or whatever decide to click on a Lucky Haskins video and see what I'm getting on about don't know what Chicago Cubby Bear is even referring to when he talks about the old guard. It's like a badge of honor at this point to be considered part of the old guard, and old Lucky can only tell you that 8 or 10 years ago I was called part of the old guard. So at this point, when people bring it up, go like, "Hey, it's the old guard." My man, Matt from Quantum of Conscience, I left him a comment maybe 3 months ago, and he said, "Holy smokes! If it isn't a member of the original old guard." Yeah. Well, at this point, I'm just plain old, folks. But there's a method to my madness here. I'm not just going to go ahead and get on about nothing. I want to talk a little bit about the truth and, the entire truth movement. What is the truth movement? The truth. What's a truther? What is a truther? Well, folks, the reality, I don't feel like beating around the bush a lot right now. I just feel like I have some things I want to say. So I'm just going to cut right down to it and speak nothing but bare bones reality. And it'll probably offend a lot of people and that sort of thing, right? But I don't feel that I need to lay down explanations or backstories or provide any of that for these topics that I've been delving into for 40 years, some of them almost 50 years, folks. So I'm just going to not beat around the bush here, and we're just going to talk about truth. Is there such a thing as a truther? Is there a truth movement? Is there real truth? Yes, there is. There are thinking men. There still are thinking men that exist in spite of the continuous efforts, well over 100 years straight of solid, dedicated efforts to squash the thinking man or have the thinking man join the club. The thinking man either is squashed, right? The idea is either squash him or recruit him. And I want to remind people, when I hear the term old guard, it reminds me of things. And I want to remind people that the truth community has a foundation, and the truth community has a very pure foundation based in real research and real truth and real individuals having genuine discussions, not debating nonsensically with each other, or you're an idiot because you don't know the earth is rising, or you're dumb, or you don't understand physics, or wherever we're at in 2025, the truth community has a foundation. I went back recently, I was trying to dig through my Lucky Haskins channel, who a few people, I was on Z's show, as I gave everybody my word I would be, and I was asked why did I delete all my old content, and I beat around the bush and sort of spoke clearly. But the reality is, folks, I was frustrated because I realized my message was heard by almost nobody. Now, of course, the non-growth of my channel is my own fault, but I will say this: never would I be able to adapt as a presenter to Truth for Money. It was never going to work for me. I talked about this before. Truth for Money is not going to work for me. I do this because I'm a real, genuine dude who has been looking at this inversion of reality since I was a very young man, 6, 7, 8 years old. Things started to appear to me, and I never stopped, and my fascination grew and grew and grew and grew, and it became an intense study of propaganda. Okay? So, again, I already said I wasn't going to do that, but there I go again, right? Trying to lay some kind of foundation for what I'm about to say. What I'm about to say doesn't need a foundation. It's just simple truth and facts, folks. But what is going on in the world of truth nowadays? Comprehension. Lucky has said this look, first of all, it starts with mockery. Very few human beings in 2025 have the strength or integrity or any of the things required, the faculties required to look past mockery. Generally speaking, mockery handles 90 to 95% of the agenda-based propaganda and keeps people adhering to it. The water cooler talk. 85, 90% of it handled simply by mockery. The emperor wears no clothes. I have explained that so many times in detail how deep that old premise is. The emperor wears no clothes. It goes so much deeper than just the people being told, listen, his clothes will be invisible to liars. Liars will think he's naked. Only honest people will see his clothes. Then 85% of the townsfolk say, wow, what beautiful clothes. That's only the beginning of the story, folks. Once you adhere and adapt to that, and you're willing to start arguing in favor of that because your ego-based intensity is you just cannot accept anyone who's not willing to latch onto your false reality or your simplistic belief system, antiquated and scientifically impossible, ridiculous belief system. So you mock those who do not believe your antiquated belief system. And most importantly, the system uses mockery to keep you mocking those who have spent the time and put in the efforts to understand your belief far more than you do. Okay? So what is truth? Is there a real truth? Is there a truth seeker? Of course, folks. What do I always say? What have I always said? It's first of all, most people can't get past the mockery. For those who can see that their belief system is a mockery-driven, agenda-based, social engineering piece of horseshit propaganda, for those who start to see around that corner, well, then they attack from a different angle. Well, you don't know nothing about nothing. You think that. Well, this is where the comprehension blockers kick in, folks. Is Lucky far more intelligent than all these people that still think they live on a magical space ball, and that our politicians are so dumb, and that's why everything's so screwed up, and we're overpopulated, and the climate is in crisis, and all of these horseshit pieces of propaganda that they've lived in and has become the cesspool that they swim in on a daily basis, and they have come to rely on this water cooler talk for their ego to present itself as an intelligent, well-informed human being. Okay? Once they're at that point, folks, you have to understand the comprehension blockers and how they work. I have mentioned comprehension skills and and comprehension blockers in almost every video I've ever made. This is why nobody, very few, even flat earthers, have so much trouble accepting the very basic, fundamental requirement of the method of discovery that's been obscured and called science. The very most fundamental basics of the method of discovery are that that they are demonstrable and independent of the observer. The most basic fundamentals of the method of discovery. The most basic fundamental: if it disagrees with experiment, it is wrong. Those who choose to make up, fabricate, add, or adhere to a theory which was fabricated to pretend that the statement, if it disagrees with experiment, is wrong, has exceptions. This is what we're talking about when we talk about the globe Earth. The globe Earth disregards the most basic fundamental principle of science. That is, if it disagrees with experiment, it is wrong. And every single experiment ever conducted, of course, disagrees with the globe Earth, and they add a theory to tell people what they're telling people is no, it didn't disagree with experiment. We have an idea, such as warp space-time, as an example. Every single experiment comes with an example: length and time dilation, etc., made gravity, etc., made up, fabricated theories, and those theories disagree with experiment and are off by more than science should ever accept as science from experiment. However, the masses are kept in a blinded state through the use of mockery and the continued intrusions into any learning they attempt to do to ensure that they never understand their own belief. Every single time. I've never found an exception. I've never found a globe Earth believer that thoroughly understands his belief. If they do thoroughly understand their belief, then they 100% objectively agree with Lucky, me, when I say there is no scientific verification of any globe Earth. It's only a it's only a show on your television. Anybody that absolutely understands the belief in the globe Earth, 1,000%, 1,000,000%, like PhD astronomers, they agree with me. Yes, the globe Earth was never verified or proven factually through science. However, they will all tell you, we went to outer space and verified it. Now, outer space is not science. Traveling to outer space is not science. It's not actual science because it's not independent of the observer. I could make something up, videotape it, then tell you it's proof. And you would, of course, go, Lucky's full of shit. That was not a real ghost. Lucky did something funny. Okay? However, the government and the Ministry of Information can put anything on television they want, tell you it happened, and you believe it. Lucky's not that ignorant. I've been studying propaganda far too long. Therefore, it doesn't matter if you believe outer space is real. The issue is not, that's where everybody gets distracted. Globe Earthers just want to argue and say, well, we believe outer space is real so strongly because of this, because of that, and you're dumb if you don't believe it. The point is, folks, that it's only a belief, and in no way, shape, or form has outer space, even the made-up, fabricated idea of outer space, which was made up and fabricated to pretend that it was okay that the globe Earth hypothesis disagreed with experiment. The globe Earth disagrees with experiment from step one. The very first thing they had to do was say, well, if there's nothing up there, then our theory could be correct, even though it disagrees with experiment. And of course, humanity never fell for that. It took a long, long time because any human being of sound mind, any human being of sound mind that still has control of their own intellectual faculties, understands completely that if something disagrees with experiment, it is wrong. You reevaluate. You don't invent wild, speculative, assumption based, wackadoodle theories like gravity and warped spacetime to continue to pretend that your hypothesis that disagrees with experiment could still be a valid hypothesis. Okay? That's where science was stolen. It's where science went wrong a long time ago. It's really sad that people can't comprehend the discussion. Now, Lucky has said for years, comprehension, comprehension. I want to make a distinction here that does not mean these people are intellectually inept or idiots or any of that. They are simply victims. Those of you who have been studying truth, real truth, not just this topic, real truth for a long time, understand how this was done, understand the people who did it, have read the writings of their intentions, how they explained they were going to do it, etc., etc., etc. None of this is secret. People just refuse, and they do not want to know. It's called ignorance. Ignorance, okay? Just as the allegory of Plato's cave would have you start to comprehend. If you give that a little bit of a look and realize that that's almost infinite, the allegory of Plato's cave, as a dear friend of mine used to point out to me all the time, that applies infinitely, including us truthers, okay? Including us truthers. That's why it's important to always keep both of your boots on the ground and stick with nothing but unequivocal, undeniable truth, such as the flat and motionless stationary plane. Unequivocal, undeniable, scientifically provable, undeniable truth. Okay, it's a fascinating discussion to me, and very, very fascinating. I'm trying to stay on the subject of comprehension. I've always talked about comprehension blockers for years and years. Now I'm going to give you the most simplest example of how a comprehension blocker works. They run much more deeper. People, you cannot use your own intellectual faculties and your own comprehension skills if all you are if your entirety of your belief system is filled with misinformation. This is why all human beings need to learn to decipher all information, cross check all information, all of it. Stop adhering to consensus based belief systems, which are all just social engineering, agenda based propaganda, period. All of it, 100%, million, zillion, billion percent. Folks, learn what propaganda is, learn what a theory is. I mean, the biggest reason that humanity's still walking around thinking they live on a ball is because they don't understand what a theory is. Literally. Like 15 years into the discussion, and they still do not understand that they're walking around in a belief system, a theoretical belief system. Hope I got that word right. People hate it when I say theoretical. And I say it for a reason, of course. Of course, folks. Of course. But you know what? That's how you always can spot a troll real easy in the chat room. Someone who has nothing to stand on. When you're chatting with somebody and you're trying to correct them and they rip on your spelling. Okay, right? That's how you spot the shallow minds. They rip on your grammar or your spelling. And of course, we know why. Mockery is the number one proof to the globe. I've said this for years now, folks. So comprehension blocker. The most simplistic form of comprehension blocker is just absolutely openly feed it as misinformation right on the television, blah, blah, blah. It's specifically being fed to you as a comprehension blocker, has a purpose. Let's start with this purpose of, let me give you an example. Even if somebody comes to the conclusion, even if they take the time and they realize, wow, I'm just stupid as a brick if I think for a minute that we landed on the moon in the late 60s and early 70s. Only somebody with the comprehension skills of a brick would think we went to the moon, right? Most people know that. So what do these people do? The comprehension blocker immediately kicks in. Why? What was the moon landing? Nothing other than globe Earth programming. Okay? All globe Earth programming, the majority of it is sideways programming. Why? Because the very few, the proud, the Marines? No, not the Marines. The very few, the very proud that absolutely know unequivocally and have known for a while, the old guard of the flat Earth, if you will, absolutely know unequivocally that the earth is flat and motionless, then you completely understand. I lost my train of thought right there. I don't even remember what I was talking about, actually, man. I'm so far ahead of myself. That's why my jaw's moving so fast. I better light this. The few, the proud, those with their own intellectual faculties still intact. Very rare in this world. Oh, so the comprehension blockers. So when if somebody is able to regain control of their own intellectual faculties enough to admit to themselves, of course we didn't go to the moon, and if they're smart, they'll know nobody's ever going to the moon. No one's ever going to outer space. It's just a fabricated construct. Okay, it's never going to happen. We're not just going to put any human beings in a large dick and just fire off the firework and send them up there. Let us know how it goes. Yeah, it's not a doable thing, folks, and you should know this. Santa Claus is not real. Okay, but for those of you still stuck in the paradigm, comprehension blocker, the most simplest form, in its most simplest form, it would be somebody going, of course we didn't go to the moon, but that's because of the Cold War and the Russians. I mean, we had to be, well, you get it, folks? Now, what are they doing? Their comprehension is unavailable to them because they're trying to utilize misinformation to compute things, okay? You can't have comprehension skills if you're willingly accepting misinformation, which is why everything needs to be constant. Everything that you use as calculations to decipher reality needs to be properly cross-checked, properly understood, properly comprehended, not, oh, it was on TV, so now that's part of my comprehension basis. Like, well, the Cold War, the Russians would have told on us, or the Russians would have known if we faked it, okay, for the weaker minds, okay? That is what a comprehension blocker is. It's built into the web of propaganda. Of course, all of these countries are all owned and controlled by the same entity. If you're not willing to understand that humanity is ran by a group of self-appointed, self-acclaimed elite, self-appointed ruling class, so-called elite, parasitical dirtbags, okay? It's called the hidden hand. If you don't understand what the hidden hand is and how this realm is ran, you will never have control of your comprehension skills. Never. So when you approach a topic like flat Earth, but you're completely ignorant to the truth of this realm, to the reality of our false history, your faulty history that you were taught, and some of the realities of our real history, if you have no sense of who runs this realm and what this realm really is and what our reality is really about and what it's been and the great fires of the late 1800s and all of the pieces of the puzzle, folks, your comprehension will never function. Your comprehension skills have been compromised through misinformation. This is why you should use 0 pieces of information to interject into your own brain, your own thought process, your own logic and reason, and your own comprehension abilities as you regain control of your own intellectual faculties. You must not interject any information that you yourself have not thoroughly vetted, thoroughly cross-checked, thoroughly comprehended, and thoroughly understood. The main reason millions and millions and millions of human beings still believe they live on a magic spinning space ball ran by magic, stuff floating in the air magically, the sun and the moon, all of it's just one big magic accident. The reason is comprehension, and they do not understand what a comprehension blocker is. One of these days, I may make a video on comprehension blockers in greater depth. Greater depth. I gave you the most simple explanation of a comprehension blocker I could think of. Another very simple comprehension blocker when they tell kindergartners before I don't know what they're, they change the story all the time as often as they change the known distance to the sun, right? Which is now known by all the people that know it's a globe. They know the distance to the sun. Okay, we were just dumb 50 years ago. We were dumb 100 years ago. Humanity for all of eternity was dumb. They didn't know it. They were just dumb. They were so much dumber than you, Lucky. Fucking people are idiots, man. That's what we're really dealing with, folks. But they have the intellectual capability, and it has been compromised intentionally. Period. Very much period. Intentionally compromised. Okay? So maybe, perhaps, I will do it. Hang on just a second, folks. Yes, sir. Yeah, I'll be in a little bit. I'm in the middle of making a video. I haven't found the time to make one in months, so I'm trying to make one. Love you, son. I'll be in just a few minutes. What's for dinner? Well, that sounds good. All right. I'll be in. Thank you. Sorry, y'all. It's very difficult for me to find time to do anything like this anymore, man. You guys don't understand. I shouldn't say that. I don't mean that. I don't mean you don't understand. Okay. I just live on 11 at all times, folks. I'm constantly busy. I have a million projects going. Life is wonderful. Every day is a beautiful ride. I'm grateful and thankful. And I wanted to chime in and kick a little bit old school here for you, because again, time goes so fast for Lucky, man, and time is such a trip that sometimes I forget, where the old guard even came from and what is the foundation in truth. And, again, maybe someday, if people show interest, maybe I'll tell the story of my journey through truth that began when I was 6, 7, 8. Okay, maybe if people decide they want to hear. Shout out, Miss Nurabella. You're a huge reason why I have found the time to make this video tonight. Literally, I heard you loud and clear when you said you were the first person I found, and you truly opened my eyes, Lucky, and please make videos and, whatever it is you said. Just saying that you somehow stumbled into me and I opened your eyes and awakened you to finding your own ability to seek and dissect truth and regain your own intellectual faculties and understand that you can't comprehend things if you don't cross-check the information. That's kind of the message I wanted to bring today. For years, I've talked about the comprehension skills. The flat earth community and that whole thing completely obscured, like I told you guys before, probably 85% COINTEL. The main thing is when you interject people like McToon and then Will Duffy and other propaganda agents like that, it just becomes this cesspool of debating about nonsensical topics when none of them can address water sticking to a ball. None of them can provide any demonstrable science to explain in any way, not explain, to demonstrate in any way, shape, or form actual science independent of the observer that rivers and lakes can function the way they claim they do on their magical fairy ball. They will never be able to demonstrate it, folks. Why? Because it disagrees with the experiment. Okay, it's very simple. If you can regain control of your own intellectual faculties and keep your own boots on the ground, then you would know that the globe earth is false because it disagrees with the experiment. That's really all you need to know. The rest is just them trying to obscure people away from ever comprehending that there's a viable conversation. That's the trick, mainly using mockery. Now, if Of course, they've never gotten past step one. There is no way to ever demonstrate in any way, shape, or form any science independent of the observer that lakes and rivers can function the way they claim they do. That's how we know it's not a ball. However, for those who want to talk about all the millions and millions of theoretical opinions in between, the whole thing ends with being saved the very last time the globe Earth was debunked, which it's always debunked in any experiment. It was only saved and is only held by a pinnacle of a thread. Humanity has never told this. If you understand how thin the thread is, you are certainly not ignorant enough to latch onto the belief. But warped space-time, length and time dilation is the only remaining thread of horseshit theoretical science fiction nonsense holding the globe Earth belief together. So if you do not fully comprehend and understand warped space-time, then you certainly do not understand your belief. You certainly are never going to be given the time of day again by Lucky Haskins if you choose to argue or debate with me against objective reality and truth. I welcome everybody to the channel and every conversation, but I will never, I don't have time to waste on people that can't even keep both boots on the ground and stand in reality. Ask yourself, who can I help today, folks? And most importantly, remember that love is a verb, not just a noun. I love each and every one of you, but my family's calling me, and they're calling me with ham and salad and potatoes, and that sounds really good. So ask yourself, who can I help today? Love is a verb. Stay true.